All right. Hope you guys are having a good day. I'm trying to finish up my lunch. So, it's a very rough mix of what I did the other day. By very rough, I mean like very rough. There's even some missing instruments. I haven't keyed in all the instruments yet, so. But yeah, that's what that is. And it's kind of designed to loop. That was one of the things that I kind of designed with that. So that it could... Because the concept is like a soundtrack to a game which doesn't exist. So that means you kind of have to make your tracks able to be looped or kind of meld together in different ways. You know, you can't make tracks, at least for like a lot of modern games, you can't make tracks that have really highly definable beginning, middle, ends like the way that you would compose a classical piece of music, because it's going to be on loop, or it's going to be fading in or fading out, or it's going to end halfway through a scene. You know, video game music requires a little bit different approach than even score writing. And the problem, I shouldn't say a problem, the thing about score writing is that you're writing music that goes with visuals that are already established. So there's also no organization that fits normal classical approaches or ideals. Film scores are just like a series of musical events that queue up with a visual. So it's the same thing. You gotta think about things a little bit differently for those. Well, trying to get in some scant nutrition here. Hope you guys are having a good day. We'll see how much more I can get done on the project before the end of February. I've been kind of slow starting because of the busyness of this week. I did do another track before this one, but I wasn't really happy with it, so it's probably, I'm going to at least consider it a warm-up. You know, kind of get into the flow, get into the right workflow. That happens sometimes when you're writing. Sometimes when I'm writing, I start with a scene for a book. It kind of gets me established with the characters and the setting and stuff, and then I end up not using it because it doesn't fit the final version of the story. But it gets you started. What do I recommend for protein powder? It's totally up to you. I'll tell you what I use. I use Gold Standard Casein Vanilla. It's like the main protein powder I use. I like casein because I really only drink the protein shake like at night. I don't really have like whey protein. I don't do that so much anymore. I'd rather just have a whole meal. So it depends what you want to, depends what you like and what's good. I like the casein because it makes you feel real full. I generally like it for that reason. Anyway, that's what I like to drink. Is vanilla. Vanilla mixes good with anything. You could like put it in a smoothie. My wife likes to use it for different stuff. Did you say you want the community to share tunes with you? Yeah, if you're working on something, yeah, I'd like to hear it, or I could share it. And get things going, get people inspired, and maybe make some new friends and listeners on the way. Building a door on your chicken house. I put a light in. The light I put in was a flag light. I got a flag light and put it in with the, so the solar panel charges it up, and then when the sun goes down, the light shines inside the little chicken house. Try to get the chickens to come inside their house. I still have one. I have this leghorn. She really likes to get up in my loquat tree and likes to perch up there no matter how cold it is. So I have to like get my ladder out, climb up there, get the chicken down, put her in the coop. Where would we share? I don't know. I haven't thought about that. There's a Discord. I don't have a link for it. That's a good place. Or you can share it in chat and I'll clear the link. Or send it to me in an email or a direct message on Twitter. Twitter's probably faster because I don't usually check my email unless I'm on my computer. Yeah, here's the Discord. Those are all good places. Or on Twitter. I'm David B. Stewart on Twitter. I still use Twitter as opposed to Gab. There's reasons why alt tech is not the savior that people want it to be. Let me think about those while I take a few bites, and then I'll tell you why. So, anyway, the how does vanilla have a bad rep as a flavor? Vanilla's great. It's a distinct flavor. I think it's because it's like the base for other flavors of ice cream. You think of it as like not a flavor, but it's its own distinct flavor. Now, vanilla goes better with a lot of stuff. Some people really like chocolate. I really hate chocolate milk. I hate the taste of chocolate milk. I really intensely dislike chocolate frosting. I don't like the flavor of chocolate unless it's chocolate. If it's chocolate or maybe like fudge, if it's chocolate, I like the flavor of chocolate. I don't like the flavor of chocolate in any other food. I don't like it on cake, icing. I don't really like, chocolate cake. I hate chocolate milk. I've always hated it since I was a little kid. I thought it tasted disgusting. So for me, like chocolate protein powder is like, gross. I won't get it. I have some in case like my wife wants to use it for something, but I don't usually use it for anything. Yeah, social media selects for who has the most people on it, because that's how being social works. Yeah. So, I'll give you my perspective as a creator, and as a person who's trying to reach people. There's really no point in social media if there's not people on it. You know, why don't I spend time messing with music on MySpace? Because no one uses it. When people used MySpace, it was worth doing. You know, why don't I spend time on Facebook? There's no one that I really need to reach on Facebook. I haven't deleted it completely because I may want to advertise. I may want to use the Facebook advertising machine to reach people. So that's an option. But, you know, people that I want to talk to are on Twitter or on YouTube. So that's the first problem is like, if you go to a place like Minds, I deleted my Minds account. Because I don't like the site at all. And what I realized is that Minds is full of people who aren't normies. You need normies. And this is not an insult to normies. We use normies sometimes as an insult. Like, this guy's such a normie. It's like NormieCon this. No, you need normies. You need normal people who are into finding content that they enjoy and want to enjoy content, want to buy books. Those are the people that you want to find and interact with. And they're just not there on Minds. They weren't there when it started, and I hadn't seen any change since then. Maybe there's more of an influx since the later happenings, and I don't like the way the site's designed. Mine started off as not a great site, and it got worse and worse with every iteration. Everything's promoted. They use their dumb little crypto coin. It's a ridiculous platform, and I hate it. So I'm not going to use it. I get to decide that. And since there's no one on it anyway, it's not really bad optionality to avoid Minds. The other problem with alt tech, so that's the first problem, is that there's no one on alt tech compared to the big sites. Consumers prefer a few standards to many standards, and social media is like standards. There's Twitter, there's YouTube, there's Facebook. Those are the big three. Maybe there's Instagram. Instagram is like photos. So each standard is just one standard. The place to share photos, Instagram. The place for like mini blogging is Facebook. It's kind of the everything. The place for tweets is Twitter, right? And the place for video content is YouTube. So consumers don't want to go to 20 different sites to find video content. They don't want to go to 20 different sites to figure out who's doing what or what their status update is, or to see Twitter-like content. Like Gab, I have nothing against Gab, and actually I have a lot of respect for Andrew Torba, who of anyone I can think of in modern America besides, I don't know, like as far as America goes, I can't think of anyone who suffered more for the audacity of trying to allow people to speak freely than Andrew Torba. I can't think of any person who suffered more for exercising their free rights than Andrew Torba. But Gab is just Twitter. It's just Twitter on a different space. It's Twitter with less censorship. So they're not really alternatives, are just copies of what we already have. Mine's in a big way is basically just Facebook. But worse in every way I can think of, right? So that's the first problem. Is consumers prefer fewer standards. They want to check 20 sites. So you're gonna have. It's only viable if everybody goes to the new site, and people only go to the new site if there's a new kind of content. Like people went to TikTok because whatever their arrangement of content was unique and people liked it. And same thing with why did people abandon MySpace? Well, Facebook did what MySpace did, but like a lot better. So it offered a new product. So that's the first problem, is that there's no one on them. The second problem with alt tech, and like I said, the second problem is that there aren't an alternative. They're basically the same thing, but on a different domain. Parler was just Twitter, but a different space. The third thing is alt tech is a digital ghetto. And the point of alt tech is to shuffle everybody you don't like into a ghetto where you can easily recognize them. You know, if you follow me on Twitter, there was an agent, a New York literary agent, who got fired because she had an account on Gab, not because she was a conservative. Now, she was fired basically for being conservative, but the way that they fired her is like she has an account on Gab, and Gab is a hate speech platform. Therefore, you're fired. So merely by having an account on alt tech, you are going to be excluded from the economy. You're going to get fired just for having a Gab account or having a Minds account or any of it. I have a Gab account, and you can follow me on Gab. I'm occasionally on Gab, but that's it. It's like if you have an account on these alt tech sites, it's an easy way to identify rather than going and looking up. If somebody doesn't have a Twitter, you go and look them up on Gab. You're like, they have a Gab account. We can't hire them, or we need to fire this person because she has a Gab account. So it creates a digital ghetto where you can identify the bad people. It's a virtual version of what Nazis did to Jews, like shove them all in the same place, or what's been done to countless outgroups over the years. And you have to realize that if you are to the right of Mao, you are the outgroup as far as the people who control the state and control the state managed corporations, or I should say the state-allied corporations. You're the outgroup, and so therefore you should be put into a ghetto and not be allowed to work, not be allowed to have access to the economy, not be allowed to have any kind of prosperity. You can dig ditches or kill yourself. That's what they really want you to do. It's one of those things where like, fine, I'll make my own Twitter. And you do that, and everybody keeps booting you off of the servers that you rent. So no one in the economy will rent your servers. Fine, I'll buy my own servers and hook that up. The ISPs won't point to your domain. The earcam won't register your domain. You all of a sudden can't buy the servers because your bank has closed your account because you had an account on this, so that's what you're headed towards. And all of that's very black pill, but you need to be prepared for it, is that if you're a Christian or even if you're just to the right of Mao, I think the future is going to be a separate economy for people who aren't playing with the major corporations. You can't expect to have access to the banking system. You can't expect to have access to debt which is how they control people. Is they make everything really expensive, and then you have to beg them for debt, and you won't have access to lots of the resources that you want to have access to, and you won't be able to access a normal internet. It's going to be like the ghetto internet because all of the bad thinkers are over on Gap. So that's kind of the future. You need to be prepared for basically some version of being Amish. If you're a Christian, if you're a devout Catholic versus a Joe Biden Catholic, you can definitely expect more marginalization as you're treated more like an outgroup. So anyway, that's my black pill for today. Random aside, but let me just say how terrible the music industry is. Oh, I know. I was in it for a long time. Music industry is bad on many levels. You can't make money in it, and you actually really never could make much money in it. And that's kind of by design. The record company will make millions of dollars and you'll end up owing them money, is the way it used to work. It's a big scam. Do you think it's even possible for new apps to compete with Facebook's, or is it a one-hit show forever? I don't know about forever. So this is to answer Darren's question, this is the big question is, what do you do with monopolies? What do you do with technical monopolies? Because consumers prefer fewer standards. And so as soon as you're looking at something that's a standard, you're going to have a technical monopoly. So what do you do with technical monopolies, or technical oligopolies? Twitter and Facebook they're both social media, but they're really different products. Same thing with like YouTube and Instagram. So you have a couple options. You can have the state own it. You can have the state manage the monopoly like a power company or a utility. So state, just highly regulated by the state. Or you can have no restrictions. And so of those three, which one is the best choice? Well, lots of Republicans were clamoring for control of social media or restrictions on social media when they were in power, and they didn't do anything about it. Now that they're not in power, that basically would have handed that power. Now, they may not have had to hand the power over in general, but if the state owns it or controls it, who controls the state? If it's your enemies, you really don't want that. So that's actually not a great option, because if it's kind of like making a ring of power. If it ever falls in the hands of your enemies, you're kind of screwed. It's good if you can somehow prevent your enemies from taking control of it and using it against you. Because we're talking about information, it's actually very dangerous to hand control of that over to your enemies, because they will definitely use it against you. And then, so unregulation might be the best option. The problem with unregulation right now and these technical monopolies is that they're basically state-funded and state-supported. It's their AI that ends up being used by the state. They don't really make money, but they're able to still generate capital. You have this situation where they shouldn't exist. Twitter shouldn't exist. It just shouldn't. It doesn't make money. There's no Twitter in a normal economic situation. Twitter would be long gone. Yet it still persists. Google took over YouTube and proceeded to start losing money with it. They took a profitable platform and inverted it, so it's not profitable anymore. And that's what they did. Is they took control and decided to use it against people rather than use it to make money. Corporations don't exist to make money. It's like a power. If there's a power vacuum there, people are gonna take control of that corporation and try to use it for their own moral ends. Ever since unnamed event and unnamed building, the left has been able to label anyone opposed to them terrorists or whatever. They basically pulled a soft coup. I agree. And here's the other thing. I mentioned this about homeschooling. Homeschooling will be a target. Anything that is associated with being to the right of Mao, being moderate or right. I'm bringing moderate into this. It's really important that people who consider themselves not on the right realize that to Kamala Harris, to President Harris, you are on the right because you're not on the left. If you're not with them, if you're not fully in the woke, you're against them. You're an enemy. And you're going to be treated as such. So I think homeschooling is going to be another one of those things that's either they're going to try to outlaw it directly or make it so unbelievably difficult to do, or have other kinds of negative consequences that people start abandoning homeschooling because it's got such bad optionality to try to continue it. For instance, you could have it from the corporate side. I posted this poll on Twitter, and we'll kind of see how it's doing. If the mega corporations all decide that you can't work for them unless you have a high school diploma from a state-run institution, people are going to be really inclined to put their kids into the state-run institution because they can get a job that way. Again, they won't have access to the economy if you homeschool them and actually give them an education. You could have the states try to outlaw homeschooling. This is how compulsory schooling existed. Homeschooling was basically a loophole out that came to exist after compulsory schooling took over, where you have to send your kids to school. We've already had what amounts to bans on homeschooling. This stuff's already existed. So I expect more of that to happen. So I think homeschooling might be on the chopping block, might be targeted. I think Bitcoin will get banned in an anti-terrorism bill. I think there's going to be an anti-domestic terrorism bill. There's already a political purge of the army going on right now, of the armed forces in general, not just the army, but the entire set of institutions we call the armed forces: Army, Navy, Marine Corps, all that stuff. So that's very dangerous. Basically, you can't be in the military. Now it's actually kind of short-sighted on their part, because you don't want to get the people out of the military who are your best fighters, but that's basically what you're going to be doing. So yeah, I think we'll have a lot of things that'll get restricted and banned as part of an anti-terrorism bill, even though there hasn't been a terrorist attack. It doesn't matter. Lots of things shouldn't exist based on money. There's so much money making moronic decisions, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Woke capital is actually kind of unprecedented. We haven't seen woke capital before, where you can a tech company can just get as much debt and as much extra stock money as they want, even though they've never made a dime. First, they deplatformed the blank, and I said nothing because I was not a blank. I've been saying this forever. School choice is one of the biggest blows to the cathedral because people will actually teach their children good things. It's not called the cathedral because cathedrals are good. I get the reference to cathedral, but let's not call it cathedral. I don't like that term from a rhetorical standpoint. I think it's better to call it like the temple. It's better to call it the temple complex, because temples are more pagan, and also temples exist to Moloch and to Mammon, which are the two demons that I think are most obsessed with and have the biggest influence in America. Moloch, of course, being the demon to which you feed your children, and then Mammon being money. They tried to put more restrictions on homeschooling in California a couple years ago after that incident with the abused family. Yeah, there's always some random incident with some family that does it. There was a guy kind of I think it was near Fresno, might have been in Kerman, where I actually used to teach in Kerman. Marcus Wesson, who kept his whole family hidden in a tent and stuff, and was having children with his own children. It was really crazy. And was getting welfare. There's always some. What's the word I'm looking for here? There's always some anecdote that is gonna, justify some crazy and extreme intervention like banning homeschooling, because somebody somewhere might be treating their kid badly. Meanwhile, the state-run institutions really don't. The CPS doesn't have a lot of power to stop child abuse. They're really not good at it. Do you think silver is good investment during these times? I think silver is just good to hold on to. This is not financial advice, but I have silver. I think it's it's a good thing to hold on to, because you'll get a lot of use out of it as time goes on. Let's put this on my main monitor. There we go. I can see a little bit better. Apparently they want to ban. Apparently India wants to ban Bitcoin. Yeah, that'll be the first thing, and then they'll say, hey, even third world countries recognize that the right-wing extremists are using Bitcoin to trade with each other. We need to ban Bitcoin. So I like silver. You know, silver's never going to be worth zero. It's only going to be worth more, I think, as time goes on. Silver's used in a lot of industries. It has some alternative use, but not infinite alternative use. So it's good to have silver. And it's affordable. You can buy physical silver pretty cheaply right now. In fact, I probably need to buy some more. Carry everybody up here. I believe there are some workplaces that are seriously going to look at not hiring those who are homeschooled. Yeah, I think it's gonna. I think that's coming down the pipeline. Well, capital is just the realization that if you have power, you can get whatever you want, because that's what power is. Need to osmose this guy. Give me that mana back. He's out of mana. Drained all his mana. Haste. That's one that we should have. Did I give him haste? Let's give Sam haste. So anyway, yeah, I expect purge of the military. Then you have a bunch of the thing is that if you wanted to get rid of right-wingers in the military, you're getting rid of 90% of the military. The military is very right-wing by their, by their own. It's just how they are. Like they're right-wing. Yeah, I can't go in. I can't go in here, so this will be interesting. So yeah, the party defines terrorism as any dissenting opinion. Words don't mean anything anymore. More haste. Whoa, there's a tornado out there. Let's find out what's up here. Altair Poff, they were all destroyed by the Emperor's cyclone. What? If the cyclone attacks Finn again, we won't stand a chance. Oh, interesting. Are we completely powerless at the hands of the Emperor's magic? If the Emperor can create a cyclone like that, there's no limit to his power. Trying to go inside the cyclone would be suicide. You'd be torn to shreds. You don't think the Emperor could be inside the cyclone, do you? I love these developments. This is the second floor of Castle Finn. Thank you. We will never rest until peace has been restored to the world. The audience chamber is right this way. Prince Gordon awaits. Oh, there she is. When the storm kicked up and the ship went down, I got separated from you. I thought you were dead for sure. It's good to be wrong now and again. The Emperor's foul magic can control even the winds. Poft, Palum, Altair, Gatreya, all were destroyed, one after the other. And now the cyclone is headed for Finn. Learn cyclone. The Emperor himself is controlling the cyclone, I've no doubt. The ultimate magic is in our hands, but what good does it do us? The cyclone would kill us before we even have the chance to use it. Unless we sprout wings and learn to fly, I don't see how we can get into that cyclone. Yeah, we have to go, I think we can go back to where we put the wyvern egg in and get a wyvern. And then the wyvern will take us up there. That's my guess. I haven't played this before. What are your thoughts on Ron Paul saying an idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government, especially in regard to America First MAGA at this point? I don't know. There's going to be a truth to it. I mean, you can only do so much. Civil wars are never simple affairs. I'm not aware of any significant one that went down without outside influence. Yeah. I wonder how you get to that chest up there. Can you get to it from here? People say poverty breeds crime, but somehow making militias lose their jobs seems smart. Maybe it's on purpose. Could be. Let's see what we got here. See if it'll show us anything. The mirror drinks in the light emitted by the pendant. Oh. Oh, the egg hatched into a wyvern. Image of a young wyvern shimmers in the mirror. The last wyvern egg has finally hatched, and the wyvern is speeding towards Finn. Oh! I didn't know to do this. Look at this cool cutscene. Whee! Here comes the wyvern. Wyvern and Dragoon are together once more. Alright. So I guess that's how we're getting into this Cyclone, guys. What's your favorite type of music? Genre, themes? Probably metal and Baroque. A lot of people vastly underestimate how effective stacking corpses like cordwood can be as solving problems. Fortunately, the designated enforcers are mostly incompetent, but they're a stopgap. Do you think exclusive Christian nationalist men's clubs that are quasi-intelligence community councils in small growing cities can stir in the usual incremental infiltration in town government? I think so. I mean, generally the pattern has been to just usurp local government rather than try to infiltrate it in any way. So I think that's usually what you get. The problem is that, and I'm experiencing this now in my town, is that in order for you to get the locals to do something that you want them to do, you have to have the local enforcers agree to help you. And so if they don't help you, then you have to go there physically to do it. So like in my town, you know, in the state of California, basically we've been under lockdown for a year, but not in my town because the police won't enforce the law. And the people won't obey the law. So there you go. If the police won't enforce it and the people just disregard it, what are you going to do? State police? We don't really have state police. We have the CHP. You have to create enforcers for the state. I don't remember if there's like a... What's up, Rainier? Not to sound like an agent, but I've come up with this saying, violence is never the answer, but curiously always works. these? I have so much gold here. What do these guys sell? Yeah, nothing I need. My best friend was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis last summer. Last week, our small town of 2,000 people gathered over 100,000 PLN for him. Wow, that's nice. Whoa. Yeah, I was going to raise Ultima. Level 2 Ultima. That's a lot. Polish dollars. Over half the American public is awake to the corruption. Even 30% of Democrats polled said that there was fraud. How about that Time magazine article where they're just like, yeah, we saved the election by doing all this stuff. That we fortified the election. What? Again, like, words don't mean anything. Let's get this guy's magic up. Actually, let's get his aura up. Blue rhinos. Yeah, we gotta level up Ricard here a little bit. The Black Knight is gonna turn out to be the guy that was with us at the beginning. I almost guarantee it. I don't know what we want to level up here. Berserk. Maybe Ultima leveled up here. And you mentioned that before that you fell off your Christian faith before and came back to it. I'm curious as to what drew you back. I went to Catholic school, but I'm now agnostic. Thanks. I wouldn't say I never stopped believing, but I stopped going to church for a long time. I don't know. It's a million little things. Million little things. You know, not like one singular event at all. First of all, like reason. You know, came to realize like virtually all atheist arguments are not valid. There's no good atheist arguments. So as you start to parse through all the arguments and they become more and more of them become invalidated, and you have more and more evidence of, say, things like 2,000 years worth of miracles documented by the church. Oh, every single one of those would have to be fake. Come on. You know, you just end up with stuff like that. It pulls you back. It's nothing dramatic. Some people have dramatic stories, you know, like their father dies or they, you know, have a dream of the Virgin Mary or something. That's not me. There's Ultima. We can level up Toad. Thunder. Noir Thriller in 2077. That man is a bully, a liar, a thief, and a fortifier. No, yeah, not everybody's on the road to Damascus. Like, some people have extreme conversion stories. Mine's not really. I mean, I was raised as a Christian. Mostly, I would say, you know, coming away from the faith, or it's just kind of being more awake to like the Protestant nonsense, and also, you know, it's the problems with most Protestant churches in general. I don't know, it's not that dramatic. I'd have to take some time and really think about all that to like give a good answer. You know, but definitely like the, you know, the gaining realization that the arguments don't really hold up. That's also part of it. I'm gonna level up magic real quick before I get into that cyclone. Ricard actually has a little bit of MP. Aren't the church known liars? I mean, Martin Luther exposed the church once. You should do a little bit more research if you actually think that. Especially on Martin Luther. Martin Luther did not start as a revolutionary. He started calling out a couple of bad people who did things like come to town and kind of drum up support for selling indulgences. This is not like a problem with the church as a monolithic institution. You know, I don't know of any like human institution that survives for 2,000 years either. Let's just attack that one. But see, people get told this stuff all the time. Like, the church was full of liars and this and that. And they don't really do any kind of follow-up on it. My conversion story was as simple as meeting a lot of unpleasant, immoral atheists and a lot of very pleasant, moral Christians. I would say the number of so if I'm comparing one group to another, like atheists to Christians, the number of absolutely terrible people who were Christians they've existed. People that have called themselves Christians, at least. But it's like so outweighed by people who proclaim themselves to be atheists, just in my real life. Now, that's not an evidence of anything. That's just, I think, the general human tendency to that when restrictions are lifted, people tend to act terribly, you know. People hate God because God tells them what not to do. And so when they get rid of the concept of God from their lives, then they're pretty much free to be as engaged in as much debauchery and wickedness as they want. But yeah, I mean, it's like, there's not even a comparison. I will say most of the people I've met who were Christians and then stopped being Christians, they were overwhelmingly Protestant as well. So I've met a few Catholics who were like stopped being Catholic completely, but most of the people that became like hardcore, like I should say, the Catholics I've known have become like agnostic, right? Whereas the Protestants have become like, abortion praising, science thumping atheists. I don't know how else to put it. Like, they're like a total inversion of the caricatures that they draw of like born again evangelical Christians. They're just like the inversion of that. Let's get Ultima up here. I'm not even talking about historical, just the atheists I knew in my life. Same thing. They were drug users, alcoholics, couldn't maintain relationships. More than that, they were thieves. They were, the people that I've known that were atheists were thieves, philanderers, cheats, had no problem lying, in general hated anybody and anything that wasn't just as wicked as them, couldn't manage their own personal affairs, and all that kind of stuff. And the people who became really like militant atheists, they were all Protestants, and they became the worst kind of militant atheists, like incapable of logic, incapable of reason. You know, the people who read half of Richard Dawkins' book and think that they understand the arguments for and against, like the existence of God, for instance. Just the most annoying people that you can imagine at a party. We'll put it that way. Most annoying people that you can imagine at a party. That's what they turn into. I was raised Catholic, but nowadays just consider myself agnostic. Yeah, most Catholics, it's like when they fall away, they're not like, well, they just kind of stop practicing, or they stop really thinking that that's the, They become agnostic, which is a different position from atheism. But recently atheists have been trying to say that agnostics are atheists. No, atheism is a specific position that there is no God. That's atheism. It's not a position that you don't know or that you haven't had it confirmed. That's agnostic. Atheists love to tell people what they ought to believe. Do you think that the casualization of lots of Protestant churches is leading to a higher turnover rate of Christians? I think so, it is. Because, I mean, there's so many things. I've experienced it. I've witnessed it over the last 30 years. Casual, non-denominational Protestant churches are, I think, they're not, I'm not going to say they're evil or something, but they really don't support people in the way that they need to be supported in their faith, for the most part. Raise Ara here. He's getting a little bit more MP. If you look at how these things go down, the Time article was probably an attempt to get out ahead and spin some new bombshell fraud proof they know will drop soon. Yeah, it's called drawing the sting. So you do this in the courtroom. It's called draw the sting, which is your side becomes the one that brings up the thing which is a problem. And that way people feel more fondly about it. So like, you know, if your client is a drug addict, you'll bring that up so that the prosecution doesn't bring it up, so that the people have it first in your context before the prosecution brings up something about your client being a drug addict. I had a great example in my personal life, too. A Catholic aunt who went on multiple pilgrimages across Spain to save the souls of various family members. Wow. Most of us are prodigal sons, not St. Paul. Now, St. Paul's an interesting case when you talk about, like, how should I put this? Unconditional election. It's basically like St. Paul didn't really have an option. He was chosen. His resistance was not an option. Exclusivity can help with quality. Why would you join a church that only requires you maybe to go to church once a year and that's all? And they don't really require anything. Whoa. Confused. Look at the chocobos. It's really, you know, I'm kind of splitting my attention with the game here, but it really comes down to not requirements, but rather what's being said. That there's no, basically whoever's on the pulpit can just say whatever they want any given week, and there's nothing controlling that. You know, there's no standard from above in the organization that determines what can and can't be said. So like I was raised in a Mennonite church that became very worldly over time, and eventually was hiring, you know, you go on a pastor search and you go hire your head pastor, your main minister. And it didn't matter what denomination that person was preaching in prior to that. As long as it was Protestant, it was like, it's all good. I have a weird way to put it, but that's the best way I could put it. So you get people that, you know, it's like you have a Mennonite church hiring Baptists. If you know anything about why that's a problem, it's like Protestantism is not one monolithic thing. Baptists are profoundly different from like Amish and Mennonite people. It's there's not a good comparison there. So you bring in people, like I remember this church I grew up with that I moved away from years ago. They had this one pastor who built the church up from nothing, and he retired because, he got old, right? So he retired. Raising this up. And they replaced him with a Baptist from Texas. Not that there's anything wrong with Baptists from Texas, specifically. And this guy, ended up having like affairs with the secretaries and all. There was all kinds of drama. And I don't see a complete lack of drama, like in the Orthodox Church, for example. But you don't tend to just get this overturning of like leadership all the time with complete different directions of how the church is being organized, what's being, quote, preached from the pulpit. We're talking major doctrinal differences. Like the dogma, at least, of, say, the Catholic Church is pretty set. So you can be alive and ascend into heaven, or you have to die first. See, it's inconsistent. What does that have to do with anything? Like, I think you have to be deficient if your argument is like, where did Jesus go after he ascended into heaven? Did he die a second time? No. It's like the idea, well, how could he be fully man and fully God? It's like, there's nothing to say those categories have to be exclusive to one another. Or that, the supreme being through which all things are possible cannot have two categories overlap. It's nonsense to even suggest otherwise. I don't know, I detect a midwit. I detect some midwittery going on there. Here we go. Ultima. Or like, why do you need that? Did he get old and die? I don't know. He hasn't told me. We had other people physically ascend into heaven before him. You are a person of body and soul. You believe in the resurrection of the body, which means you basically will have a new physical body, or your physical body will be resurrected at the end. Not just like you have a separate soul, then your body's meaningless. That's really Gnosticism. You got to dig more into the actual teachings of the church. What was I going to do here? Let's do Blizzard. Thunder. I don't consider Mormons Christians. And most Christian churches don't consider them Christians. It's up to Mormons what they want to consider themselves. And the other thing about Mormon movement in the 19th century was several things. It's not just the LDS church as we know it today, but there were several different things that comprised the Mormon movement that are all interesting and worth looking into. There's more than one Mormon church. A lot of people don't know that because they really only know the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But there's more to it than that. Here's an explanation for the nerds. If an elf dies, his soul goes to Valinor. But the ships at the Grey Havens can also take you, bodily and alive, to Valinor, like it did Frodo. That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah. Is heaven a non-physical place? I don't know, but there's nothing to say it is necessarily a non-physical place. We construct these things. Well, if you die and go to heaven, then it must be a non-physical place. It must be completely ethereal. No, that's not a conclusion that you can draw from those facts. Level up Ultima. They're called mysteries also for a reason. And I kind of like the Orthodox perspective is to simply not explain everything. All things are possible through God. Kind of like transubstantiation. Is that the Eucharist becomes of the same substance. Oh, it's literally becoming his flesh and blood, in one sense. But Christ was not of one singular substance either. He was fully man and fully God. All right, what's I going to do here? It's another one we want to level up. Oh, he has flare. He's not really going to use that, though. Break. We'll try that. Ultima. Let's do Blizzard. Thunder. I want to read more Tolkien, but I get so bored by lore. Yeah, the lore books are different, you know. I would actually suggest Children of Húrin, which is a novel version of one of the stories from the Silmarillion. And it's pretty good. It's pretty heavily edited by Christopher Tolkien, but that's okay. It works. So I would recommend that one. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. It does have a very different style and flavor than, say, The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, but it's still pretty readable. I like the Silmarillion, but I totally understand how other people are not going to like it. Because it's a particular thing, you know? Taking a rocket to the clouds will no more take you to heaven than sailing a ship towards the west. Do you take your kids to a Catholic or Orthodox church? Right now, we don't take them to church because all the church is banned in California. Church is banned. There's no churches near us holding any kind of services. We were taking them to Protestant service that my in-laws go to, but that kind of ended for a while. I don't know. We'll see when things start to clear up. What my wife and I decide. My parents and I explored various forms of Christianity over the years and studied the Bible to see which was the most scriptural. We concluded that Messianic Judaism is the truest form. Here's the problem with that. You know, it's kind of like saying, this is the problem with the word alone as a Protestant foundation. Yeah, it's all about the Bible. You know, and we're going to exclude anything that's not in the Bible, which includes actually the doctrine of the Trinity. But it's kind of saying, I know more about this document than the people who assembled it. That's the problem with like word alone or biblical. I don't know what it's called. Like biblical, like the Bible alone. The Bible's the only thing. Boom. We're getting it up there. Yeah, take each one as a separate story. I like this, Victoria. Yeah. Read them slowly and enjoy the non-lore, the pathos of characters, the images of cities, the songs, the curses are cool. Yeah, there's a lot of stories in there, and a lot of them are really good. It's like you could take any one of those stories and make a great novel out of it, or make a great movie, which is fun. In the spirit of your music project this February, could I plug my project, Leander? Yeah, put out an album a couple of weeks ago, for sure. You can just leave me a link, I'll approve it. That's it. Sola Scriptura is not a rejection of the people involved in writing the Bible, but a rejection of the fictional lore made up about them after the fact, like Peter being the first pope. Well, I mean, was he the first bishop of Rome? That's what the pope is. We didn't really have those terms like early on. Those are kind of after the fact things, but that doesn't make them less valid, in my opinion. You know, we didn't even have a Bible for the first, like, several centuries of Christianity. There wasn't a set Bible. And then which Bible? Is it the one that Martin Luther tore like, I think, how many books? Tore like 5 books out of the Bible. I'm trying to remember which ones, like Sirach and what are called the deuterocanonical books. Is that the Bible? Is the one Martin Luther decided was the Bible? Oh, this one is the Bible because these 5 books were missing from some, other thing. And it's weird, like, there's references to Enoch, Book of Enoch in the Bible, but we don't consider Book of Enoch canon, though you can read it, Make a great album. Night Fell on Middle Earth. Yeah, I like that album too. It's one of my favorites. Who is your favorite saint? Saint Anthony the Great. Here, what is Eyes on the Walls? I don't have a picture of Eyes on the Walls. It's, there's a Temptations of Saint Anthony's on the back of that. He was a spiritual warrior, like tormented by demons. Council of Nicaea was organized by Constantine, bro. Read history. Constantine did not assemble the Bible. Rodney Dangerfield references the Council of Trent in Back to School. I like Back to School. That was a fun movie. I miss Rodney Dangerfield. One comedian I miss. What do you think about downloading music illegally but sending money directly to the artist? I actually think that's okay. So, I meant to do something on like my moral thoughts about piracy. And, the basic thing is like, if someone's providing a service to you, you should pay them for it because they're providing a service to you. So people deserve to be paid for their labor because they're laboring in anticipation of being paid, especially. So if they have something for sale, that means they're laboring in anticipation of being paid. If you take that thing and you don't pay them for it, then you're stealing, right? You're stealing, just as like how not paying your plumber is stealing his labor, right? Yeah, you didn't steal his tools out of his truck and take them, but you didn't pay him what for his services rendered. So how you go about paying artists, I don't know. Because I think there's actually good justification for pirating software because the pirated version is more functional than the version you pay for. So you can, this sounds crazy, but if you guys ever check out Pro Tools is just straight up like non-functional unless you pirate it or Cubase. You have to have like a little USB dongle that you plug in that runs a thing on like the root level of your OS. It's awful. The pirated version is the one that you should probably use because it doesn't screw up your computer. It doesn't run a bunch of things in like level 0 permissions and cause your computer, like people have to reinstall their OSs because of things Cubase does. But the pirated version doesn't do that. And it also lets you use all your USB ports. So if you paid for Cubase and then you download the pirated version, I actually don't see a problem with that. Because you're paying for the product. And then you also deserve to be able to use the product without destroying your computer. And so it's, I don't know. It's the kind of the old joke, the pirated version is the superior version. Putting your work on the net is like laying a stack of CDs on the sidewalk with a sign that says, please, please don't just take this. Please pay for it. Yeah, it's like the take one. You can tell it's kind of like here's like the moral test of your society. Do you return the shopping cart? There's no one watching you. There's no one enforcing that you need to return the shopping cart. Do you return the shopping cart? If you live in a society, you return the shopping cart. We had for Halloween people with big giant bowls of candy. Take one. That candy was there all night. People only took one in my neighborhood. They did not steal the candy. Now, when I was growing up, if you put take one, that meant first person there got all the candy. There was no trust. This is something I was really interesting. I was reading this Mercer Mayer book, the Little Critter books, and it just depicted a time that's long past. It's like, I can ride the bus by myself to go see my grandparents. And my mom was like, yeah, me and my sisters used to ride the bus from Lufkin to Dallas to go see my grandmother. Like, you would never put a kid on a bus now. Why? He'd get robbed, beaten, raped, kidnapped. We don't have our society is completely missing trust. Like, you would never, it's like, you wouldn't send your kid alone on the subway. You wouldn't go on the subway as a woman alone. I know women in LA that it's like, I will only live on the second or third floor of an apartment building or higher. Why? Because I don't want my door on the ground level where someone can break through my sliding glass door and come in and steal my things or rape me. Because that's what happens. You know? There's no trust there. You know, there's a part in the book where he's mailing money to buy something out of a catalog. It's like, oh yeah, I used to do this. It's like, you would never send money through the post office. The postman would steal it. It would get stolen out of the mail. You can't trust the mail. You know, you wouldn't send cash through the mail, but it's okay to vote by mail. Yeah, no. We don't have a society with trust anymore. Constantine, the man to whom God personally chose to present himself and guide to victory and overlordship over the civilized world. Who is he to help assemble the Bible? Don't get me started on Adobe. They need a crusade on them. Yeah, Adobe. I use Adobe products. I've given Adobe a lot of money over the years. And I need software that works. We need some functioning software. So that's my opinion on that. Same thing with like anything. You know, if you get the music illegally, but there's no reason for most. Here's the reason the argument's kind of moot though. Like, let's say there's a band you think is really cool. Chances are you can buy the stuff from Bandcamp from them. You know, you can get it from Bandcamp and pay them for their labor that way. Like all my favorite bands, you can buy their music, super high quality digital files directly from Bandcamp. Pay what you want. Well, I have $5 to pay for this album. I'll give them $5 because I think they deserve at least $5 for this album, and give it to them. You know, I buy music on Bandcamp basically to support artists that I think are really great. Including Fellowship just came out with a new single that it's very Twilight Force-y. Maybe a little bit too much, but it's good. I'll give them another pound sterling for their coffers. We have an abandoned house next to ours. It's been like that for about 40 years. Nobody broke in yet. Wow. You know, my wife owned a house before we got married, and she moved to LA and was renting out the house, and like her renters trashed the house and she couldn't rent it out again, and squatters ended up in it. Squatters moved in like a week later, apparently. And they had the water and the power turned on and just squatted away. Yeah, it's so low trust now. This is why you need the Second Amendment too, by the way, guys. Why do we need the Second Amendment? Well, you need to defend yourself against all the people that exist in our society now. What are your thoughts on buying used copies of books, movies, CDs, etc., which has more or less the same monetary effect as the original creator's piracy? Now, this is a great question. This is an awesome question because I've thought about this a lot. Now, I've bought a lot of used CDs. I guess the difference between a used CD and piracy is that the person who had the CD before no longer has the use of the CD. Thus, they have sold it. So I know this probably doesn't make sense if people are just like ripping the MP3 on their computer. So this argument isn't valid for that. But I bought most of my used music I bought before people were doing this kind of stuff. So, you know, in a sense, you've transferred ownership. You really have. So it's probably not a big deal. I think if somebody's ripping the music and then selling the CD, they're not losing the use of the CD. In that case, they've basically kind of cheated the little system there, I guess. It's the best way. I don't know how else to put it. I thought of this way about used games years ago, because what happens with a used game? The dev sells the game for $60. Someone buys it, they play through it in a week, and then they sell it to GameStop for $10, and then GameStop sells it for $50. So, the dev isn't getting paid for that. Yeah, but the original person doesn't still have access to that game, especially with a console game. They sold their PlayStation game. They no longer have access to the game. So it's not that big a deal. What matters is when you transfer ownership, you also lose access. Just like when you transfer ownership of your car, you don't get to still drive your car. If you're trying to get an in-run around that, then to me, that's a moral problem. It's like, hey, I don't want this CD anymore. I'm not going to listen to it. You can have it. I'm not going to play this game again. Let me sell it. You basically paid a lot of money to rent it, right? It's the same thing as renting the game. There's not really game rentals very much anymore. It's kind of hard to find game rentals these days. So instead, you buy it from GameStop and you sell it back to GameStop, and you've basically paid $30 to rent the game for like a couple weeks. I don't really have a problem with that. Now that I think about it. But I was very compelled by arguments like that, the devs don't get any money 10 years ago. Because I really care about these devs. The new album's called Sorrow Dwellings. I like the sound of that. I'm taking the rest of the year to write and record a black metal record. Wow. Yeah, Bandcamp's a great site. I agree, guys. That's cool. You can get most of my stuff at zolaonline.bandcamp.com. In case you want to buy any of my music. Thinking about trying to release this next album as like royalty free, so that just set it up so you don't have to deal with copyright claims or anything, basically ever. So you can use it. You can use the music for background music or use it for something else, remix it, whatever you want to do. What are your thoughts on the theory that the first heaven is Earth's atmosphere, the second heaven is the universe, and the third heaven, God's kingdom, is on the outside of the second heaven? I have no idea about that. I have no opinion. I think a lot of cosmology, like pre-modern cosmology, you're working with what you know, and so it's easy to come up with, theories like that. But we don't know, and I can't really comment on it past that. Appreciate anybody who checks it out. Here, did we get a link? I didn't see a link. So if you have a link to it, I'll clear it in chat, which just means I'll approve it. All links are blocked, by the way, just because that's what happens is bots come in and they will like spam the bejesus out of the chat. That happened a bunch of times. Google actually is pretty good at stopping bad links here. I buy most of my games off of G2A, key reseller. I just can't justify paying $40 to $50 for a game that's 6 years old. Yeah, I understand that, and there's a couple options if you're a gamer who doesn't have a lot of money. There's options. You can buy games used, which is a way to acquire them. You could buy keys. You could wait for the Steam sale if you're a PC gamer and get the Steam sale for cheap, if you can. You can also... What are some other options? You can borrow games from people. That way you don't have to buy them all the time. Let's Let's do cure. You know, there's a lot of options to save money. You know, I bought a lot of cheap games off of Steam. Some of them were definitely worth the money. I think I bought Oblivion for like $15 off of Steam when they had like a massive sale on it, kind of early on. It's like the best $15 I ever spent, you know. Think about how much entertainment a game gives you for its money. Even at $60, a good game gives you just a ridiculous amount of entertainment for what you get. And for what you pay. The issue with piracy is a service one. If you make it easier to buy it, people will. Big fish in Hollywood, etc., think that they're getting more money but are losing it in truth. There's a point to be made there. I think so. You know, this is why I like Reaper as a DAW, digital audio workstation. Reaper doesn't have any of this DRM crap. You know, you can get the full version free for like 2 months or something to try it out. And then it's $60. You know, $60 for a really full-featured digital audio workstation is a great deal, and most people are quite willing to pay $60 for a tool that they're going to use and have it be above ground and get the updates and all that kind of stuff. I paid a lot of money for Ableton Live, and I use it constantly. I have no problem with... I'm going to save here. Oh, I want to save. File 1. I have no problem paying the piper on that because I've used the software so much. There, the Wyvern takes us up to the top. Here we go. Good old games. Steam sales are great. Also, Nintendo has sales. Sony has a lot of sales too. So the Sony eShop, if you're not buying the physical version, you can still get a very, very cheap digital version. Then, you know, as far as like moral stuff goes, I think it's okay if you already own the game to like run emulators or things like that. It's like you already own the game. So I don't have any problem with emulation, especially if you have a right to play the game. Or in some cases, there's no way to buy the game. Like if you can't buy the game, you know, the game is not for sale, except through resale. I think that's okay to emulate it. Otherwise, just no one has access to it. We don't have a library set up for games right now. Actually, we need to let's attack that vampire lady. You know, we don't have a library for games. We have libraries for books, so people who have no money can check out a book and read it and have access to the information. We don't really have the same thing for games. You even have, like, you can go to the library and check out a movie. Bye-bye, vampire lady. Read that the founders of the Pirate Bay created it so people could pirate from unethical companies on grounds of principle. I don't know about that. Here's the other thing about like IP with development. You know, developers are paid upfront and capital makes their money after the fact. So the people who are providing all the capital, you know, the company itself, they make their money from the sale and the developers get paid upfront. But it's kind of important that capital still be able to make money from the sale or they won't be in the business anymore. What cheap controller do you guys recommend for PC? So, I don't really recommend cheap controllers. If you can get an Xbox 360 controller on the cheap, they're really good and they're not expensive. Like this Cyclone is a castle. What's my favorite PC controller? I have it around here somewhere. So yeah, I have an Xbox 360 controller I've used literally for 10 years on my PC, and it works great. And it still works with all the new games, so I'd recommend an Xbox 360 controller. You can also get an Xbox One controller for $50. Now, my favorite one is actually one by 8-Bit Dough. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go on that side. Where is it? I had it here. Where put that thing? Hold on. Hello? Oh, here it is. It's right in front of my face. So this controller. I really love this controller right here. And I got this for like $30. This is the best $30 controller I've ever bought. I got it on sale. From Best Buy or somewhere. I don't remember where. Maybe Amazon. It's got a Super Nintendo. It's Super Nintendo spacing on the face buttons, which is just like, and the D-pad feels just like my Super Nintendo controller. This feels so good for platform games, like I can't tell you. Then you have the two analog sticks like a PlayStation controller in the middle. Those work really good. And then you do have analog triggers. So this will work pretty much with any PC game as well. But you may have Xbox button cues. So for PC, I just think an Xbox controller, an Xbox 360 controller is probably your best bet because all the button cues are going to be correct. Like it's going to show you, this one is labeled Y, but it's actually X on the Xbox, that kind of stuff. So it'll show you all the stuff correctly. If you're playing Last Remnant or something, that's really important that you have the button cues be the actual buttons. So you're not having to think oh wait, it says X, but that's actually square, all those things. I like the Xbox One controller for PC. When they go on sale, they can be cheap. Yeah, I have an Xbox One controller as well. I think I like the 360 controller slightly better. I like the way the triggers feel. Just for me. They're basically the same controller, but I just like the 360 slightly better. But I really like that 8-bit Do controller. That's like my favorite new controller here. And it works great with the Nintendo Switch, too. And by the way, you can use your Xbox controllers with the Nintendo Switch. This is crazy. You can get a little Bluetooth bridge that just plug into the USB ports on your Nintendo Switch, and voila, you can use an Xbox controller or a PlayStation 4 controller. I used the remake of the Duke for the original Xbox. It feels good in my slightly larger than normal hands. Yeah, I could see that. I liked that one. My hands are a little bit big too, but maybe that's it too. I feel like the Xbox 360 just feels a little bit better in my hands. Slightly bigger than the Xbox One controller. The 8-bit Do controller, this one's really wide because it's based on the SNES controller. It feels really good in the hands. It's just like, this is like my favorite controller right now. That 8-bit Do controller. They did a really good job with that one. And their products keep getting better. Ripper! What's a Ripper? I like the sound of it, but what is it? Is it a weapon? It's the Ripper. I don't have anyone that has like dagger skill though, so I think I'm going to skip it. If Layla was in the party, then we'd have some reason to have the Ripper. I'm playing Neo 2 right now. I just started it today. I have Neo 2 and Neo 1. Yeah, dude, this thing works like flawlessly with ROMs. And check it out. It works. There's already a profile set up for RetroArch. So if you're using it with your phone or with your computer with RetroArch, boom, it just works. That's what I played the first Final Fantasy game on, was this one. And it's Bluetooth. For some reason, it's not working if I plug it in USB. RetroArch doesn't recognize it. Like, it recognizes that there's a controller, but it doesn't see that it's the 8-bit Do SNES controller. So it just doesn't work correctly with it. Well, did I go up the wrong side here? I might have. I like the Switch Pro controller as well. I really like the Wii U Pro controller. I think that one's a little underrated. And the Wii U gamepad is really good too. It's just like, it's this big thing, you can just like chunk it in your lap. It's really good for kids because they don't really have to hold it. They can just put it in their lap and then reach all the buttons really easy. So my son really likes the Wii U controller a lot. I remember Steam machines. I think they were a little bit ahead of their time. Various people have tried that. I think 3DO actually tried that. It was like, it's a standard and other people can manufacture it. instead of like we're the only hardware manufacturers. Yeah, Neo helped me sell a lot of books. People started reading Muramasa when Neo came out because they were looking for samurai books in English, and there's just not that many of them. So it's like I kind of had the market cornered for a little while with this book. When Neo came out, they're like, oh yeah, here's some samurai books. Here's this one, you know. Alright, so this electricity hurts me. I picked up 2 open box Saltec gamepads for $20. Nice. I have the Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro. Poison Axe. I like the sound of that. Poison Axe. And it's pretty good for fighting games. I really like it for fighting games. But you have to do a little bit of setup work to do, like, say, Street Fighter. So you do have to do a little bit of setup work with it. And you have to have, like, some other little thing that you plug in order to use the Arcade Stick Pro with your PlayStation and your Switch for some reason. I don't know why that is. But it works with good with the PC as well. I should bring that thing in. Remember when everyone wanted to make the next Pokemon? Neopets. Yeah, everyone wanted to make the next Pokemon. There was Digimon. There's so many different things. They've been doing it for 30 years. People have been trying to catch that lightning in a bottle. With varying success. You know, varying amounts of success. I feel like this stream started so serious and now it's fun. Should really just start fun. Did anybody play the Demon Souls remake on PS5? Just curious if anybody did. I did not. I don't have a PS5, but I'm like, why not just play the original Demon Souls on PS3? No one has a PlayStation 3 anymore. They threw it away or they threw it into their garage. My PS3 is like the PlayStation box, like plays PS1, PS2, PS3 games without having to plug in any other consoles. Beautiful. Like, there's really no reason to have an original PlayStation hooked up when you can get every PS3 plays PS1 games. So you can buy like a PS3 Slim now for like $40, and it just will work with all your PlayStation games. Digimon had a better movie than Pokemon did, though. Digimon movie soundtrack is insane. I'll check it out. I've never watched it. Don't let Digimon fans hear you say that. I remember there was a Digimon show. I never watched it. Or maybe I watched an episode because I was bored at the time. I got a PS5 and played that Demon Souls remake. It was great. 100%ed it. It looked amazing and plays exactly the same. Okay, great. But also, there's no the online portion of the original like is shut down. Apparently, they're removing some of the shots of Miranda's butt from the Mass Effect remake. Yes, I saw that. I saw it's like we're gonna remaster Mass Effect. I'm like, I don't feel like it really needed it. You know, the Mass Effect 1 could use some better textures. It's like a texture pack for Mass Effect 1, I think would be really good. But I think Mass Effect 1's aesthetics are really on point. Like, it's got great... Oh, look at this. Look at these guys. You know, the film grain even looked great. After the whole theological political argument, that might have been the boldest comment so far. What did I miss here? Apparently there were, yeah, it's like, I I saw that there's like, this is not good for 2021. It's like, it's a problem. You go back and like, imagine that you're going to reprint. Oh, another poison axe. Check this out. I'm going to do this. Double poison axe. He's going to take way more damage, but it's okay. Oops. I need to keep leveling up Ultima. I think the bigger idea is to generate excitement for the series again, and after the shit show of Mass Effect Andromeda, it's really just looks like a good graphics mod. Yep, or I think it's reboot phase. Talk about those. When they're going to remaster it, it's like a reboot phase. Hey guys, remember how good this game was and how much fun you had playing it? Great! You should buy it now. Buy the new one. We're going to come out with another one. After that one's successful, we'll continue rebooting it. People will sell off their consoles once the next gen comes out, then cry for Sony to re-release the game because they can't play it anymore for a higher price too. There you go. It still has the crappy ending. Yeah. To me, the Mass Effect ending was all about exposing the reality of Mass Effect from the beginning, which is that your decisions actually didn't matter. I think that's what it was, is people, when it was like, when they were completely, when it was really obvious that your decisions didn't matter, it was like, what? How are you telling me all these decisions I made back in these other games just didn't matter? They never mattered because they never had an outcome on the story. It was just there. They were just there for roleplay purposes. Are you going to save the Rachni Queen? Or are you going to kill the Rachni Queen? It doesn't matter. Saving or killing the Rachni Queen has no impact on the final act of the game or any game that follows after that. I call it the illusion of choice. Yeah, you can make a choice, but it's really for role-playing purposes. It doesn't change the story at all. Nor, if you're a writer, do you want it to. You don't want to give the player options to completely change the story, because that means you have to write that many more stories. That increases your workload tremendously. You want to say, hey, now you can choose. Rachni Queen, live or dead. And then they can feel like they made a meaningful moral decision about letting the Rachni Queen go or whatever they were going to do. Doesn't this repeatable battle theme drive you insane? A little bit, yeah. It gets a little bit old. Because especially because the encounter rate is so high and the song never changes. This is something they did in later Final Fantasy games that I really approve of, is that the battle themes will change throughout the game. Final Fantasy 13 did it really good, where by the time you get towards the end of the game and then one of the earlier themes they start using again, you're like, oh, I love that song. Oh, hell yeah. I love that version of the song. Uh-oh, wood golems. I didn't do that much damage. Double poison axe. I assume fire would actually be good. Let's hit him with some fire. Mass Effect set themselves up for failure by including that weird mechanic where you had to input the choices you made in the last game or load a save file. Yeah, everybody had the expectation that their decisions mattered. And then they came to the realization that they didn't and they never did. That sucks. I'm not saying the players are wrong. Don't mistake me. The players wanted that roleplay to carry through to the end. And they were basically promised that. That's why I don't like the Telltale games. They make such a big deal about how your choices mattered. Mass Effect 2 didn't have any consequences to your choices. Mass Effect 2, the ending was the same no matter what. I think there was, again, very small changes which were very easy to implement, but nothing major. You know, if you chose to go right away to fight the Terminator baby, you could save your yeoman. And if you chose to finish all of your companion quests, then she died. That's not that meaningful. They introduced her in the game, she's barely there, and then she dies. You know? You can choose different companions to go on different parts of the final mission, but ultimately it all plays out the same way no matter what you choose. Again, it's really there for roleplay purposes. That is, to make the role-playing experience better, not really to change the story. That's my point. Mary Sue has lots of magic. She's a Jedi master. Have more chests in here. Nice. Ultima. Just finished Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Was it really fun and beautiful game? Yeah. I've made this point before. There's narrative and player agency are basically against each other. So if you give the players lots of agency, there can't be a strong narrative. So there's not a strong narrative to Elder Scrolls games by design. But there is a strong narrative to Mass Effect games, which means you really can't have a lot of player agency. You have to create the feeling of player agency without actually giving it to people. And I think they did that well with the first game, by the way. Because the first game, it's like, oh, which world do I want to go to first? It doesn't really matter what order you do them in. You know, everything plays out the same at the end no matter what. So you really, as a writer, you only have to, or Dragon Age Origins, even better. You could go to you're going to go to the Mage Tower first, or you're going to go do the Elves first. It doesn't matter. Each one is a separate little story. Are you going to choose elves or werewolves? It doesn't really matter. The werewolves will come help you, or the elves will come help you in the last level. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Are you choosing Templars or mages? It doesn't matter which one you choose. They're going to come help you in the last level, but it doesn't really matter. It's not going to change anything about the final level. Which dwarf are you going to choose? That really doesn't matter. My beef with Mass Effect 3 is that they had a good ending, as is with Shep and Anderson dying on the Citadel, and then comes the Star Kid. So much that you change the ending, but your path to get there is based on your choices. For most people, that's good enough. I agree, Darren. That's the point. The point is to make the player feel more connected, like their choices affected their experience. It's for roleplay purposes. It's not to create a different story. Like my version of the story, fundamentally, it's just not that different. You know, I let the Arachnite Queen, and I've played Mass Effect 1 several times through, making different choices, and I knew at the end, like, it really doesn't matter if you choose Arachnite Queen or not. You choose the one that makes you feel good. You know, or whatever. It doesn't. There's other ones too. Like in Mass Effect 2, you could have the matriarch or her daughter that looked the same, but they basically had the same abilities. Rewatched The Last Jedi last night after not seeing it in years. My opinion on it has changed. It went from mad to violent hatred. I had to keep pausing and walking away to calm down. Now, see, I didn't have that effect. I didn't have that experience where I like hated it more. After I watched it the second time, I was like, if anything, I liked it more. Not because it was better or I saw like some hidden thing, but because I just didn't care about Star Wars anymore. So I could just see it as a bizarre Star Wars fan fiction film made by someone who hated Star Wars. Like a Star Wars nightmare. Yeah, people need to realize video games cannot replicate the tabletop role-playing experience. Exactly. In Mass Effect 2, you could choose to cheat on your girlfriend for Mass Effect 1. Yeah, the only choice that mattered. See, and I didn't choose a romance option. I think when I actually played it, I didn't choose a romance option. And like, you know, your character will look at a picture of Liara or whoever. I think it was Liara. You know, whatever their romance was from the first one. They'll look at a picture when you're flying in to attack the Reapers. Which I thought was kind of fun. She never once speaks to Ben, her only son. Yeah. I think Ryan, maybe his Rian Johnson's parents maybe didn't love him very much. Oh, I gotta go back for that treasure. Got some treasure to get. Yes. Defender obtained from the chest. Defender. Defender of the crown. You watch the Shadiversity taking Rise of the Not Skywalker. It's really funny how he becomes angrier and more frustrated as he does the review. See, I thought Rise of Skywalker got to this like perfect ending where it was such a parody of its own self, it unintentionally emulated like the space operas of yore. It's like an unintentionally bad version. Defender. Oh. Not as good as the Flame Shield, but let's double our attack. Why not? We'll take our shields off for a little bit. Diamond armor. Monster in a box. General. We're fighting generals now. He's poisoned. Took 3 damage from the poison. Whoa, those guys hit hard. Poor Rickard, he died. So this is why you really want to wear shields, because then you don't get hit as hard. Weird thing about the Mass Effect fans, a lot of them were super into the Quarian, the mask girl. You can't touch without killing her. Weirdos. It's true. I think it's because they liked the way her hips looked or something. She had like those Draenei hips. It's kind of like weird butt sticking out. They're like, oh, the butt. What are generals doing in a box? Good question. think I'm gonna put the shield back on. But he can wear the defender. Rianne Johnson said fans were split with Empire Strikes Back, and they either hated it or loved it when it came out. That was actually the critics. Fans enjoyed it when it came out. Ultimately, I went with Ashley after cheating on her with Jack and Moran. Oh, Jack. Oh, I hated that character. It's like the most aesthetically unappealing character, worst personality, all like rolled into one. Oh, she's dead. I wonder if people who speak other languages find, like, accents sexy. Let's see if this guy has any mana here. $80. Cool, he had some mana. If you're smart, you walk away from blatant propaganda instead of launching a years-long hashtag movement to sell frog shirts. Yeah. Alright, we're finally getting up to like higher levels of Ultima here. Ultima Online! I know some British girls who think southern accents are sexy. Perfect! You gotta get out there to get out to England. And she was tortured as a kid, yeah, I know. She straightens out in 3 and becomes a school. I just found her just hideous and horrible to talk. It's like, yeah, okay, she's damaged. Gotcha. I don't, you know, if I knew that person in real life, I'd be like, I don't want to talk to you. It's not my job to straighten you out. You're also not even useful in the party, so go away. As a Polish person, yes and no, I wouldn't call the sexy, simply interesting to listen to. Yeah, I gotta wonder if, like, you know, do like Japanese people like to hear weird accents of their language? You know? I don't know. Variato delectat. Foreign is often interesting. It's true. Yeah, Jack represents like the total woke character to me from that time period especially. Whereas like the rise of wokeism, they were writing lots of characters like Jack. Characters that were like, you know, their mommy and daddy didn't love them, so they were goth, they were this, they shaved their head. You know, they were just made to, quote, challenge. Wind Flute. I wonder what Wind Flute does. Whoa! Green Dragon! The only brew for the brave and true comes from the Green Dragon. This is some boss music right here. I'm going through all the films because I'm watching TLJ because I'm going through all the films and I have a greater appreciation for the prequels, but I still prefer the OG trilogy hands down. Ouch. So what is this? Jack's redeemable only insofar as she is Miracle of Miracles, not lesbian. And not actually ugly. Just trying to make herself look ugly. Like characters in Dragon Age Inquisition. Who are actually ugly. Yeah, that elf. That ugly elf. Dragon Age Inquisition characters were so ugly. They have an insult for it. They call them English teachers because they are only good for trying to practice your English with. Just take all that mana. Thank you. You ever end up watching Mandalorian? Oh, Mandalorian? No. I haven't had time. I haven't really had time for much, guys. It's been really hard. The most punchable face in the game. Yeah, it made even the elves in Oblivion look decent. I have a lot of affection for those wax Oblivion faces. Even though I mod them, you know. I do recommend like face mods in Oblivion if you can manage it. It helps. Even just a little bit of like straightening out the faces. Watched Lord of the Rings last night. It still holds up, and not many movies out are very interesting. Hope Dune movie will be a fun reboot. I doubt it. I just don't believe Hollywood can make a good Dune movie. So I just don't expect it to be good. Sorry. Ultima's getting stronger. The prequels at least had the advantage of world building that made the universe feel more alive. The sequels actually made the universe feel small and dead with how narrow its focus was. I agree. I think that's a totally valid criticism. Like the entirety of Last Jedi was running away in space and go to a casino planet. As if the entirety of the war is like these two groups of ships, you know? It's such a bizarre thing when you stop and think about it. Oh, there's nothing on this side. The things that make Dune good are things that don't easily translate to film. I agree. I think it's hard to make a Dune adaptation. Probably impossible. I think that David Lynch Dune is actually very good. I know he considered it like his biggest failure somehow, but I think it was actually pretty good. You think Sarah the ugly elf is cute? Good for you, man. You're gonna make an ugly girl very happy someday. I googled them because I'm curious, but they look like normal video game faces. Oh. See, I want to go back and see what's in those doors. Okay, this is my OCD. Ignore me. I gotta go back and figure out what's in those doors. Let's kill these wizards real quick. Sarah does not look like a regular person to me. And also like that the shiny face. So it's like she looks like a 4 covered in Vaseline. How far are you in Final Fantasy 2? I don't know if I'm at the end or not. I don't think this is the end. I'm in the Cyclone. Trying to get through this last level. Guys like Zimamaru ought to be saluted the same way as soldiers who jump on grenades. You know. One thing I like about Square Enix is, like, they populate their games with very attractive people. They make their characters hot looking. I remember somebody had this chart of, like, all the Square Enix characters, and, you know, they all kind of had same face in that they were all very symmetrical and attractive. And it's like, look at how much diversity there is. It's like, well, yeah, you picked to show Lightning, the hot character from Final Fantasy 13, and not... They actually had a black character in Final Fantasy 13. A 4 covered in Vaseline. I read the Dune series in early 20s and loved the first 3 books. Now, rereading in late 30s, I find I prefer the last 3 now. Interesting. Yeah, see, I think... yeah, I could probably identify with that. It doesn't feel very... Oops. It doesn't feel very complete. Can we flee? Look at these poo-poo eyeballs. Look at this encounter rate. Japanese audiences are very hardcore on having good aesthetics in their entertainment. Yeah, I like that. It's like, I appreciate that. I want to turn on the game and see things that are beautiful. If I want to see ugly things, I can go to the DMV. I had this argument with my sister. I'm not going to watch any movies with ugly actors. Why would I pay to see ugly people in a movie? Yeah, that's why I didn't watch Witcher. You know, the Witcher series, I looked at that and I was like, everybody's really ugly except for, what's his name? The guy playing Geralt, Matt Cavill. You know, he's really good looking, but everybody else is, all the girls are really ugly. It's like, why would I watch that? Oh, it's more real. I don't want real. I live in reality. I want Geralt to bang hot chicks. That's what I want. Dune was a financial failure when it came out, and David Lynch wasn't familiar with all the Dune books and had a co-writer who knew the books well. It's now a cult film. I like it, personally. Henry Cavill. Yeah. I mean, he's good looking. But, like, all the chicks on the show were just really ugly. They all looked like comedians. By that I mean, like, their strength lay not in their visual appeal, but in something else, I guess. Why can't a good actor be ugly? Yeah. But I don't want to pay to see that. Should be a great voice actor. It's not even real. There are beautiful people in the world. Not everyone's a goddamn 4 out of 10. It's ridiculous. I was thinking about this with beauty the other day. Is like, I've known some women that, like, people are like, oh, she's not going to find anyone to like her once her beauty fades. It's like, I've known women that it's like, they'll never not be able to capture the attention of men. Because they'll always look better than other people in their age range. Even when they're in their, like, 60s. My friend's now ex-wife, she was really beautiful. She had a twin sister just as beautiful. Their mother was beautiful in her, like, 50s, and their great grandma, like, still, you could see, had held onto her looks even in her, like, 80s. It's like, these people are never not going to have male attention, at least from their own age group. Even in their 50s, they'll be able to like, be the MILF or something and capture male attention. It's just how it is. The world is not The world is not fair at all. You know, some people just really, they hit the genetic lottery and they're just beautiful. And they're going to be beautiful basically their whole lives. The stupidest thing is Scorsese's are supposed to be beautiful, like magical, plastic surgery, big boobs, perfect skin, etc. Oh, the sorceresses. Yes, exactly. You know, they had like magic to make them look better. They were like ugly when they were made sorceresses. I think that's the lore. It's been a while since I read any of the books. Henry Cavill almost missed his chance to play Superman because he was ignoring his manager's call to raid in Cataclysm. Awesome. I agree that Henry Cavill's the only good-looking person in The Witcher. He's also Superman. Isn't bad in that role, yeah. Sophia Loren remained gorgeous well into old age, and Audrey Hepburn was radiantly beautiful until she died. Sally Field still looks pretty good. Like, you can definitely see that she's held on to her looks pretty long time. So yeah, some people just hit the genetic lottery, man. They're gonna... Poor Ron Perlman. Yeah, Melania Trump's gonna look good basically till she's dead. Like, some people, that's just how they are, man. Christopher Lee, his wife, he married a model that was like 20 years younger than him. He like had a great life. He was in the SAS. It's like basically an assassin, you know, just like lived the life of adventure. Became an actor, married a hot model, had a career in the movies, played Dracula. Got to start recording heavy metal records in his 90s. What a guy. There was nothing in any of these rooms. I just wasted all my time. That was a waste of my time. Set in with an Osmos. Christopher Lee had his SAS card until he died. Could go into any military base with it. That's rad. I guess this game had my number. It's like, you gotta explore every nook and cranny even though there's no treasure for you. No treasure. I'm just saving time at this point. That's why I'm fleeing. I have to flee to save time. Lee cultivated a rich voice, but it's odd, nobody even tries to do an impersonation of him. Nobody can do a good Vincent Price impersonation. No! Alright, fine. We'll kill you. Woke is a weapon against escapism to make everybody miserable. The lore is that a potion made from the mandragora stops aging and makes the body beautiful. Yennefer has been born hideous, for example. Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright, here we go. Let's save. Alright, here we go. Uh-oh, here's the Emperor. Here he is. Look at that smile on his face. So, you've revived the Wyverns, and now, here you are. Yet still you are mere insects, unworthy of even being crushed under my foot. Oh, the Royal Guards. First we gotta kill these guys. Seems easy enough. Maybe Netflix is just showing us Yennefer before she takes the potion. Dandelion mentions that she must have used at least a couple of potions on her boobs alone after seeing them during the fight against the Golden Dragon. So you've some ability after all. Let's see how you manage against this. More horsies. They can't even hit my guys. Shields are leveled up so high. The woke take, the potion makes you white. I love the background here. It's great. Quite extraordinary, really. Like, I love this pixel art. It would appear as I've sorely underestimated you. You should consider what I'm about to do a great honor. I shall kill you personally. Look at him back there. Alright. We will do this. Aura. We will do... Where is Shell? We will do Protect. We'll just buff up. And we will do... Blink. Here we go. Ultima! I wonder if I can haste. Yeah, it didn't do that much. Thunder X, Thunder 10. Uh-oh. Christopher Lee also read all of Lord of the Rings annually. He had some faculty with Tolkien's invented languages. Made the on-screen display of Saruman's speech far more weighty. Yeah, he wanted to be Gandalf, but he felt like he was too old to play the part. How many good debuffs here? Now let's just attack. We'll just do Ultima every round. So brave, he has a bunch of guys in front of him. What's up with the Emperor's weak limp wrists? I don't know. He's a big sprite. They used to do these big sprites back then. Haste. Hit him with more Ultima. No, we didn't even get to dispel him. He died. Yeah, my favorite anecdote is when he told Peter Jackson the sound of if you stab somebody in the back. Because you stab him in the lungs. No, I will not die. It's over. We should get back to Finn. They'll be waiting. Is it really over? Bet you I didn't beat the game right now, though. Costume Quest series. More fun than it should have been. Kids on Halloween. Through your efforts, we finally defeated the Emperor. Thank you. The world was bound in darkness, but now the light of peace shines once more. Alex Jones, Marisu, Sam Hyde, Richard, Ricard. What more could we ask of you? The tales of your bravery will be handed down for generations. Now let us celebrate. Many have come hoping to catch a glimpse of the heroes who brought down the Empire. I wouldn't want to disappoint them. Oh, we're dancing! So nice. It was a self-defense situation. I like this. How cute. Where's Sam? He's not even on screen. Doesn't he have... Uh-oh! My ladies, my lords, the Dark Knight Lance has declared himself Emperor. He's reorganized the Palamecian Empire. He'll send troops. He'll slaughter us all. Castle. Ugh. It can't be. Lance. Next Final Fantasy XIV expansion got announced. It's one big love letter to Final Fantasy IV. Emperor will be back in a few games with an army of city-destroying dreadnoughts in Final Fantasy Rise of Marisu. That is great. Alright, what do we do now? Lance, the Dark Knight, but I thought he was your friend, your brother. I'll go to him. I'll make him understand. He must be acting under the spell of the Emperor. I know it. If he's ascended the Emperor's throne, there's only one place he can be. Palamecia. Castle Palamecia is a fortress situated high in the mountains. It cannot be approached on foot. Luckily, we have a wyvern. Lance the Dark Knight, do you really think you can fight Marisu's brother? This is our battle. You'll have to let us finish it. I had a feeling you'd say that. Just make sure you come back. It's an impregnable fortress. Luckily, Paul doesn't know the meaning of the word. I've heard him bragging about breaking in. Alright, so we get to go talk to Paul again. The greatest thief ever. The Dark Knight went and claimed the throne for himself. Paul's always bragging about how he broke into that place. He'll talk your ear off about it if you give him half a chance. Well, less than half, really. Alright. Is there anything else to do here? Alright. I think we'll leave it there for today. We killed the Emperor. Now we gotta go kill our Marisu's brother. Whoa, I hit my plate from lunch. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Let's see what we want to do here. I appreciate it. I really do. Yeah, I'll let you hear some more of this. This is an extremely rough cut of the music. Like, there's even missing instruments. So I'll let you hear that on our way out. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me for a while. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good one. And hopefully more content coming out this week. Thank you for the prayers for my mother-in-law. We don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know. I'll keep y'all updated. Anyway, have a good one. And I'll see you next time.